Story 1. Two men are driving past a prison when one of them looks over and sees a small person climbing down from a cell window on a length of rope. "Hey, look," says one of the men. "There's a little person escaping from prison." "Little person?" says the other man. "Come on, that's a condescending." Story 2. I have not spoken to my wife in over 7 years. There is nothing wrong. I just do not want to interrupt her. Story 3. These are a couple of jokes my uncle from the Navy told me. Why do Norwegian warships have barcodes on them? So they can scan the Norwegian. America uses United States ship for their naval ships, while the British use Her Majesty's ship. The Italians use Atessa, my boat. Story 4. An old man at the barber shop says he wants to look sharp for his granddaughter's wedding. He has lost most of his teeth, so it is hard to shave his hollow cheeks well. The barber says, "Got you, friend, have a seat," and begins to lather him up. He pulls out a small foam ball and instructs him to put it between his cheek and gum, like a plug of tobacco. The old man puffs out his cheeks. The barber shaves him. The old man is thrilled with the result, smooth as a peach. He asks, "What if I swallowed the ball by accident?" The barber replies, "No problem. I would just have you bring it back in a couple of days like everyone else." Story 5. A man walks into a hotel lobby ready to check in. He tells the clerk, "I would like a room, but before you give me the keys, I have one question. I am struggling with an addiction to pornography. Before I check in, can you tell me if all of the adult content in the room is disabled?" The clerk looks at him and says, "No, it is all regular content." Story 6. What do toilet paper and the Starship Enterprise have in common? They both circle Uranus looking for Klingon. Story 7. Said with an Australian accent, "What's better than eating a mandarin?" Eating a mandarout. This joke works best vocally. Story 8. A rich man walks into a bar with his horse. Feeling generous, he buys the whole place a round of drinks. Once thoroughly into it, looking for good entertainment, he announces to the bar, "I've got $1,000 for anyone who can get my horse to laugh." Many people try and fail until a larger man walks up, accepting the bet. He says to the rich man, "I can do that, but I need to take your horse outside for a bit." The rich man agrees. A few moments pass, and sure enough, the horse walks in with the man laughing heartily. The rich man pays him the money. Feeling more amused and generous, the rich man announces to the bar, "I've got $2,000 for anyone who can get my horse to cry." Many try and fail until the same larger man from earlier walks up and accepts the bet, once more under the condition that he has to take the horse outside. The rich man agrees again. Sure enough, the man and the horse walk in a few moments later with the horse crying his eyes out. The rich man, now thoroughly stumped, pays him once more but pulls him aside and says, "All right, now I've got to know how you did that. I'll pay you $3,000 if you explain how you managed it." The larger man agrees and explains, "It was rather easy. The first time I took him out, I told him I had a bigger penis than him. The second time, I showed him." Story 9. Disclaimer. A little crude. What do a pizza delivery driver and a gynecologist have in common? They both get close enough to smell it, but if they eat it, they are fired. Story 10. What is the difference between a dirty bus stop and a crab with breasts? One is a crusty bus station and the other is a bus decrustation. Story 11. Question: how do two potatoes settle their differences? They hash them out. What? Did not like it? Okay, I have another. Question: wanna hear a joke about paper? Never mind, it is terrible. Wait, where are you going? I have so many more jokes. Come back. I have more jokes. Story 12. A mother and father found a sadomasochism magazine under their 10-year-old son's bed. The mother worriedly asked what they should do. The father looked at it and said, "Well, we sure can't spank him." Story 13. A guy is about to walk into a bar, but a dog is lying down in the doorway. "Move. Easy, buddy. Just cooling off here. Give me a second." "Wow, a talking dog. Yeah, I know. Want to make some money, Einstein?" "How?" "Take me in there with you and take bets on me talking." He does. But the dog just tilts his head quizzically when the guy says, "Speak." The guy is enraged, pays off the bets, and wants to kick the dog when they get back outside. What the heck? Relax, chump. We're playing the long game here. Think of the odds we'll get in there tomorrow night. Story 14. Question: how many mice does it take to screw in a light bulb? Only 2, but they have to be really tiny. Story 15. An old man is shopping for a 50th anniversary gift for his wife. He wants to show he not only loves her dearly, but also still finds her attractive. Flowers and chocolates are not going to cut it. He walks through the mall, candles. No. Perfume. Also a non-starter. Decorative items to put on a shelf? As if. He sits on a bench to think, just outside Victoria's Secret, but is embarrassed to go in, kind of awkward. A saleswoman sees him, comes out, and kindly offers to help him find the perfect gift. G-strings, push-up bras, no and no. She shows him a mannequin wearing a nightgown, fairly sheer with fur trim at the hem, a bit of lace, and a satin ribbon bow. $100. Kind of steep, but worth every penny. Could you box and wrap it? He asks. Sure. Let me get one from stock. I'll be right back. Done. He presents it at dinner. Would you like me to try it on for you now? She asks. Well, I'm going to have a cigar and brandy in the study. Why don't you finish up here, then go upstairs? You can step out on the landing to show me, and I'll come on up. So she does. She sees the receipt in the box. So sweet, she thinks. But we're on a fixed income. That's kind of a lot of money. I could return it for a refund, and he probably wouldn't care or maybe not even notice if I go out there without clothes. So she does. Yoo-hoo. What do you think, honey? She calls down. He looks up and says, I'll tell you what I think. For what I paid. I think the least they could do is iron the darn thing. Story 16. 3 construction workers are eating lunch on the girder 70 floors above the street. The first man says, I bet I have the biggest penis. He exposes himself and it falls 3 floors. Wow, says the second man. Nice, but I can do better. He exposes himself and it falls 18 floors. Man, says the first man, you beat me. The third man smiles, unbuttons his pants, and lets himself hang off the side of the building. After about 20 seconds, he starts wiggling his hips. What are you doing? The second man asks. Dodging traffic. Story 17. A man walks into a bookshop and goes up to the woman behind the counter. Excuse me, he says. Do you have that new book on small penises? The woman checks the stock computer for a moment. I'm sorry, she says. I don't think it is in yet. Story 18. A bus full of unpleasant people crashes and dies. St. Peter grants them one wish before they enter heaven. For all the pain and misery they endured. St. Peter asks the first person in line what their wish is. I wish to be beautiful, they say. St. Peter snaps his fingers and says, Your wish is my command. And they become beautiful. The second person in line hears this and makes the same wish. St. Peter snaps his fingers, and now the second person is beautiful. A man at the very end of the line hears this and laughs to himself. St. Peter continues down the line, and the last man is on the floor, laughing hysterically. St. Peter finally reaches this man and asks for his wish. He says, I want them to be ugly again. Story 19. Son. Dad. Is that a yacht or a sailboat? Dad. That is a yacht, my boy. Son. Dad. How do you spell yacht? Dad. I do believe it is a sailboat. Story 20. A young woman wants an unusual pet. She goes to an exotic pet store and asks the man if he has any pets that would be unique and interesting. He shows her tarantulas, scorpions, snakes, and lizards of all sorts, but she does not want them because her friends have them. She tells him she wants a pet no one else has. He thinks for a minute and says he has just the pet for her. He disappears into the back room and comes out with a small box. She is excited and intrigued. He opens the box and takes a frog out. She looks at him and says, That's just a frog. No, he says. This is a special frog. This is the only frog in the world that can eat. She thinks that is unique and interesting, So she buys the frog, food, an aquarium, and takes it all home. She sets everything up and puts the frog in the tank. She is happy to have a new interesting pet. A few hours later, just watching the frog do nothing, she starts wondering if she has been tricked. She removes her underwear, takes the frog out of the tank, sits on the floor, and places the frog between her legs. The frog just sits there doing nothing. She is upset, tosses the frog in the box, and storms back to the pet store. She stomps through the door and up to the counter. She slams the box on the counter and yells, "You tricked me!" The man holds up his hands and asks, "What do you mean?" "This frog does nothing," she replies. He asks, "Are you sure?" The woman takes the box, sits on the floor, and places the frog between her legs. The frog just sits there. The man shakes his head, walks around the counter, gets down on his hands and knees, looks at the frog and says, "Now, I am going to show you this one more time." Story 21. Ever heard the saga of just Fred? Well, Fred stumbled a bit leaving the bar one night. A police officer walking the beat noticed. "Hold up there, bub. Public intoxication doesn't fly around here." "Ah, give me a break. Just a 2-block walk home. I ain't causing trouble. Got enough of that already." "Well, what's your name?" "Fred." "Fred what?" "Just Fred." "Well, we could still go downtown, you know?" "Okay, I was born Fred Johnson. Growing up, I wanted to be a dentist. Got my doctor of dental surgery from the American Dental Association, but after a few years decided to step up to oral surgeon, so went back to school and got a doctor of medicine from the American Medical Association. Went to Los Angeles with a few emergency medical technicians and registered nurses to celebrate. Got an incurable sexually transmitted disease. The American Medical Association revoked my doctor of medicine. The American Dental Association took away my doctor of dental surgery. Then the disease took my Johnson. Now I'm just Fred. Story 22. I bought some shoes from my drug dealer. I don't know what he laced them with, but I have been tripping all week. Story 23. What is the difference between a hippopotamus and a lighter? One is pretty heavy, but the other is a little lighter. Story 24. A pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel attached to his crotch. The bartender looks at him and says, "Hey, what's with the wheel?" The pirate replies, "Arr, it's driving me nuts." Story 25. What do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs? Still no idea. What do you call a deer with no eyes, no legs, and no testicles? Still no idea. It works better with a New York accent. A priest, a rabbi, and a minister walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What is this? Some sort of joke?" Story 26. A man walks into a psychiatrist's office and says, "I need to see the doctor. I'm crazy. I'm crazy." The receptionist replies calmly, "You need to book an appointment at least 2 weeks in advance, or the doctor won't see you." The man leaves and returns 5 minutes later, completely naked, jumping up and down, yelling, "I need to see the doctor. I'm crazy. I'm crazy." The receptionist looks at him and says, "You can go right in. The doctor will see you now." The man says, "Hey, you told me I would need to book an appointment before. What gives?" The receptionist replies, "That was before, but now I can clearly see your nuts." Story 27. A shark does a crossword puzzle. A barracuda swims by and the shark says, Excuse me, predatory fish with 5 letters." The barracuda replies, "Dude, what about yourself?" The shark gasps and says, "Of course, Jerry." Story 28. When does a joke become a father joke? When it becomes apparent a parent. Where do fathers store their father jokes? In the database. Where does light go when it gets in trouble? Prison. It gives it time to reflect. Don't worry, it is a light sentence. Story 29. Sort of dated but still funny. Do you know why they invented the home shopping network and quality value convenience? Because it was getting too hard for people to drive to the mall with a couch strapped to their rear. Story 30. A man lives next door to a mental health facility. He is doing some gardening, and one of the patients is looking over the fence watching. The gardener is asked what he is doing. I am putting fertilizer on my strawberries, he replies. The patient laughs mockingly and says, we use cream on ours. Story 31. For nuns stand at the gates of heaven upon their death. St. Peter looks in his book and says, all right, sisters, it looks like you have led very good lives overall, though each of you was inappropriate with a man once in your lifetime. Because you have been such good people, I will let you dip the part of your body that touched a man inappropriately in holy water. I will bless it, and you can enter. The first nun walks up and dips her finger in the water. St. Peter blesses it, and she goes in. The second nun walks up and puts both her hands in the water. St. Peter blesses them, and she walks in. As the third nun walks up, the fourth nun says, hey, can I go in front of Sister Ellen? If I want to be blessed, I will need to gargle, and I want to do that before she dips her body in the water. Story 32. What is the difference between a garbanzo bean and a chickpea? No one has ever asked a garbanzo to be on their face. Story 33. A guy walks into a bar and orders 5 shots of whiskey. Line them up. The bartender gives him a bit of side-eye but complies. He proceeds to drink them one after another without taking a breath. The bartender says, whoa there, Newt, what's the rush? The guy answers, you would drink like that too if you had what I have. Oh gee, sorry. What do you have? $1. Story 34. A man walks into a bar and sees a beautiful woman. He tells her, my father is very wealthy and very old. You should come home with me, and I will make you rich. She agrees, and 3 days later, the man has a new stepmother. Story 35. Pickup line or not? When I look into your eyes, I can see the ocean. Really? Yes. Really, because you look like a whale. Story 36. A psychic person of short stature was arrested for fraud but managed to escape. The police are looking for a small medium at large. Story 37. Did you hear about the tiny fortune teller who escaped from prison? A small medium at large, they say. Story 38. Putin's personal chauffeur is driving Putin through the countryside in the evening and suddenly hits a pig. He stops, gets out, and finds he has killed the poor animal, so he decides the right thing to do is inform the owner. He is nervous about the owner's reaction as he walks up to the house and knocks on the door. All Putin can see from his car is the owner opening the door, the driver telling him something, and the owner inviting him in. A few hours pass, and the driver finally returns, drunk and disheveled. Putin asks him what took so long. The driver says, they invited me in, made me a feast, gave me vodka, and let me sleep with their daughter. Putin asks, for killing their pig? What did you tell them anyway? The driver responds, I told them I am Putin's personal chauffeur, and I just hit the pig with my car. Story 39. A man is in a bar drinking his beer when a woman approaches him with a deal. $50 for oral sex, and she will sing the national anthem while doing it. No one can sing through oral sex. I have to see this, he thinks, so he hands over the money. The woman leads him into a room. He enters first, and she switches off the light after entering. A moment later, the man is in the dark receiving oral sex, and he hears her singing, oh, say can you see? That was the best experience he had ever had. The following day, the man cannot stop thinking about it. That felt incredible. But how can she sing with her mouth full? I know. I'll bring a flashlight next time. The next night, the man returns to the bar and spots the woman. He makes the same deal and hands over the money. She leads him to a room and turns off the light after entering. While receiving oral sex, the man hears a clear singing voice. Oh, say can you see? He reaches into his pocket for the flashlight and waves it around. On the nightstand, he sees a glass eye. Story 40. All my favorites are Scottish jokes. Jock was out working in the field when a barnstormer landed. I'll give you an airplane ride for £5, said the pilot. Sorry, can't afford it, replied Jock. Tell you what, said the pilot. I'll give you and your wife a free ride if you promise not to yell. Otherwise, it'll be £10. So up they went, and the pilot rolled, looped, stalled, and did all he could to scare Jock. Nothing worked, and the defeated pilot finally landed the plane. Turning around to the rear seat, he said, "Gotta hand it to you. For country folk, you sure are brave." "I," said Jock, "but you nearly had me there when the wife fell out." Story 41. Norm Macdonald joke. ID was always a weird abbreviation to me because the I stands for identification and the D stands for identification. So it seems like D is doing most of the legwork there. Rest in peace, Norm. Story 42. Works best if you can do a pirate voice and depends on the right response from the audience. What is a pirate's favorite letter? They will mostly say, RR. But a pirate's first love be the sea. Story 43. There is a group of men working in some remote hills. They spend about 3 weeks at camp before coming back home. One of the new workers asked some of the others what they do when they want some intimacy. The group chuckled and pointed across to a large field of sheep. The new worker replied, "No, you're joking. Really, what do you do?" One of the men responded, "No, we are serious. See that field of sheep over there? That is the answer." The new worker walked to the field and attempted to engage with one of the sheep. When he finished, he returned to the group. The others were laughing as he approached. The new worker said, "Why are you laughing? I knew you were joking. Why are you laughing at this?" One of the men replied, "New worker, you had a whole field of sheep, and you chose the ugliest one." Story 44. I know a joke about 2 Jewish men in World War II, but it takes a really long time to tell. I do not know any short jokes. Story 45. Wedding vows. If you truly believe in God, how can you lie in his house or in front of him? Hypocrites. Story 46. I have to catch a flight to California. I cannot get a direct flight. They said they have to stop at the Empire State Building first. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.